Isle of Palms is much quieter than it was since yesterday's shooting last night. There are some people out surfing, enjoying the water, enjoying the beach. And just a few moments ago, we've seen some law enforcement checking out the scene, trying to find some more evidence. The day after this shooting on the beach at Isle of Palms, many are asking, how could this happen? Where were police? It's the first thing the chief addressed at a press conference this morning.
We had extra personnel. We were already planning, knowing that spring break was coming, so we already planned to bring extra police officers in from our agency, as well as the sheriff's office. Once we found out we had this, the sheriff's office sent even more than we had initially planned to do for spring break.
By Friday evening, there were hundreds of teens at the beach when a fight started to break out. After detaining 3 individuals from a previous fight, police say there was another.
While they were doing that, a second fight took place, and while they were detaining an individual with that one, someone did start shooting into the crowd. We have 6 victims, and their ages are 16 and 15, and one that is in her 30s.
They say the woman was in her 30s and was not part of the group.
This is simply unacceptable. You have the actions of a few that are going to impact this entire community now.
Police say many of these kids were from the Tri-County area and schools were aware of Skip Day.
If you know people are going to gather, young people are going to gather in celebration of something, please let us know in advance. There's absolutely no reason anybody should be carrying a gun to the beach.
Isle of Palms Mayor Philip Pound says first they need facts. Then they can figure out how to prevent something like this in the future.
When you have a huge park, 400-car park, it's hard to wrap your hands around that no matter how many people you have here. So that will certainly be part of the debrief.
The city will reconsider how the public will use the beach moving forward.
We're going to have serious conversations about access and gatherings on the beach.
SCDOT has laid out 5 options for the Isle of Palms connector. One of them will add another lane going into Mount Pleasant. Another one will put the emergency vehicle lane on the bridge. Now, one councilman told me that after Friday's shooting, he feels like it's another sign of why that emergency vehicle lane should be added back to the Isle of Palms connector. So right now, do you think it's an unsafe situation on the connector?
Absolutely, without question.
Councilman Blair Hahn says the Isle of Palms connector needs to change. He wants the emergency lane back on the bridge, along with the barrier between the bike lane and vehicle lane and railing along the bridge. Hahn says he's proud of how first responders got to the scene of the shooting on Friday, but he believes an emergency lane could have helped. Here's a video of first responders on the connector on Friday.
We've got first responders trying to get here because they don't know what's going on, but they know there's an active shooter. And they can't get around all the people on the bridge. So it was just mayhem.
He believes there isn't enough space on the connector for people to move out of the way.
If you have an emergency lane in the middle, everybody does what they're trained to do, which is pull to the right when you see flashing lights behind you. Well, now you see flashing lights behind you, you can't pull to the right because they're bicyclists and runners and even mothers with baby buggies.
Hahn supports option 3 from SCDOT that gives that emergency lane back to the connector. But changes to the connector aren't the only thing that the city is looking at after Friday's mass shooting.
What could we have done different? What could we have better planned for, even though I think we did a pretty decent job.
Mayor Pound says the city will have to have a debrief with some serious conversation about moving forward, but he's proud of how the city responded.
Our guys were already on the beach along with county sheriff personnel, so I don't know that there was more prep that could be done, quite honestly. We'll rely on our public safety folks in the debrief to tell us what they may need, whether it's people or equipment. It's really hard to limit access to a public beach, obviously. Is there something we could do for large gatherings? Possibly. Require a permit with the city.
And as for the future of the connector, the mayor says that's up to council and ultimately SCDOT.
It'll be interesting to hear council's conversation in light of what happened Friday night. I've had conversations with Mayor Haney on because the SCDOT is looking for both of us to provide some type of guidance.